Hello and thank you for joining us on Newsweek, where we highlight some of the biggest stories that made the headlines recently. I am Abosedi Adeniraduremi. This week, President Tinubu reps ask CBN to suspend implementation of cybersecurity levy. Also this week, court grants former Aviation Minister Hadi Sirika, his daughter and two others, 100 million naira bail each, restricts travel. Later on the show, Governor Fubara relocates Rivers House of Assembly to Government House amid state's worsening political crisis. All the details in a moment. Stay with us. We begin with matters of the economy. This week, President Bola Tinubu asked the Central Bank of Nigeria to suspend the implementation of the controversial cybersecurity levy policy and ordered a review. Now, this follows the decision of the House of Representatives, which asked the CBN to withdraw its circular directing all banks to commence charging a 0.5% cybersecurity levy on all electronic transactions in the country. The CBN on the 6th of May 2024 issued a circular mandating all banks, mobile money operators, and payment service providers to implement a new cybersecurity levy following the provisions laid out in the Cybercrime Prohibition, Prevention, etc. Amendment Act 2024. According to the Act, a levy amounting to 0.5% of the value of all electronic transactions will be collected and remitted to the National Cybersecurity Fund, overseen by the Office of the National Security Advisor. Financial institutions are required to apply the levy at the point of electronic transfer origination. Now, joining us to discuss this is Joel Kemie, a doctoral researcher and lead contributor of Joel Political Blog. He's joining us via Zoom. And the Justice Ojeno, lead partner, Eco Solicitors and Advocates, joins us in the studio. Gentlemen, it's so good to have you join us on the show this week. And let's begin with you, Justice. Let's talk about the legal implications of President Tinubu's request to suspend the implementation of the cybersecurity levy.
Okay, I think that the President has the power pursuant to Section 130 of our Constitution, him being the chief executive of every matter that touches on executive powers in this country. And of course, that includes directing the CBN to be able to stay back or withhold that step. The House of Reps doing it, for me, I think that it was a suggestion to the CBN, because we need to make it clear to the legislature that the only way they can control the executive is by making laws. And if they want to say they are ordering the House of Reps, they have to advise the House of Reps or appeal to they have to advise the CBN or appeal to the CBN for the CBN to do that. The CBN is an executive arm of government. It doesn't take orders from the legislature. It only follows the law that the legislature passes. And of course, if it's signed by the president, or if it is not signed by the president, if it's not assented to by the president, if overridden by still the legislature.
All right, let's bring in Joel here. How might this cybersecurity levy impact the average Nigerian in terms of financial hardship and, of course, inflation?
Yes. First, I want to commend the president for asking that the implementation of the levy be suspended for now. Now, this is it's indeed a welcome development, considering the fact that Nigerians are already going through untold hardship. Okay, and it shouldn't just be suspended. I think for now it should just be, it shouldn't even be talked about for now. We are still trying to battle with the issues related to the subsidy removal and how it has brought about a serious increase in the prices of commodities, considering that most of the commodities, most businesses around in Nigeria, they are tied to the oil. So we are still trying to grapple with the price increase that has gone that came with the subsidy removal, and then there are other issues, to talk about, and the dollar is still increasing against the naira. So already as we speak, the unemployment rate is well close to 32%. The inflation rate is around that size. So you can tell that the inflation rate right now is very, very high. So if we go ahead with the implementation of this levy, it will skyrocket the inflation level. That's just the truth.
But now that the president has directed it's been suspended, Justice, could this suspension have any unforeseen consequences on the nation's cybersecurity infrastructure?
Maybe let's just say foreseen, because definitely the law is very, very important. Cybersecurity is very, very important. And it's one of the spheres that a lot of people are not that conscious of at the moment, which is very, very dangerous. So I feel that as much as possible, all our internet infrastructure, all our cybersecurity infrastructure should be strengthened, including financially, because if a lot of these things are not financed, they're going to suffer, and we don't want to suffer a hack on a grand scale. Because if we suffer a hack on a grand scale, we see if we may have to drop names of countries, hackers from North Korea, hackers from Russia, and what they are doing to infrastructure in the US. If any of them just decides to turn on Nigeria and launch some kind of attacks, I don't even know how we'll be able to survive it. So because of that, I feel that it's a welcome development, but we have to look for alternative ways of financing it at the moment. And a lot of clarity also needs to be brought to the law, the provisions of the law that's enabling, in a manner of speaking, the CBN to be able to take this step. If the clarity is in place and the persons or institutions that ought to be taxed are taxed, if they have to be taxed, then it just has to be done in order for cybersecurity to be taken very, very seriously, and so that the entire nation doesn't suffer the consequence. But as much as possible, it should not be escalated to the average Nigerian.
All right, then, gentlemen, we'll take a moment, and when we come back, the conversation would continue. But for the next segment, I'll have Justice Ojieno, join us for that topic. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. This week, a federal high court in Abuja granted bail to former Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, his daughter, and two others in the sum of 100 million naira with two sureties. Mr. Sirika and others are being tried over an alleged 2.7 billion naira fraud. The court also restricted the defendants from traveling abroad without its permission. Now, Justice Orji ordered that the defendants be remanded in prison custody if they failed to meet their bail conditions. Now, recall that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, that's the EFCC, in April took the ex-Minister of Aviation into custody and grilled him for days. The anti-graft agency then slammed 6-count charge on him, his daughter, and two others. The EFCC alleged that Mr. Sirika abused his office by awarding 1.3 billion naira consultancy contract for the Nigerian air startup to Tianero Nigeria Limited. Well, I still have in the studio for this discussion Justice Ojieno, lawyer. Well, can you now explain to us the legal basis, behind the court's decision to grant Mr. Sirika, his daughter, and two others 100 million naira bail each?
Okay, for me, I feel that the primary legal basis is the fact that they are presumed innocent until they are proven guilty. So the court just feels that maybe they shouldn't start suffering the punishment of the charges that have been laid against them. So because of that, the court gives them certain conditions that will ensure that they are available at any time when the court wants them. Because once a charge or a set of charges are preferred against any person or institution, the person becomes a ward of the court, and the person becomes somebody that must be made available or make the person himself or herself available at any time the court wants them. So that is why the court imposed conditions that are necessary for them to be available. And it's fully at the court's discretion. So it's the court that decided that, okay, 100 million naira shorties,
Yes.
and detention of their travel documents, or making them get permission from the court before they travel outside of the jurisdiction of the court, unnecessary conditions. And yeah, we hope so. We pray that they don't jump despite that.
But talking about this restriction on travel, typically, how does it work? And what are the potential consequences if it's violated?
Okay, typically the way it works is that the court will ask for their passports, which is the means of ingress and egress out of the country, to be deposited with the court registrar. So if it's violated, of course, the court can now be tempted to bring in more stringent measures. For example, holding it or directing the persons in charge of our custodial centers to hold whoever it is who is trying to breach that condition. And of course, we won't need the passport again if the correctional services or whichever other detention, it can be DSS detention, it can be EFCC detention, is holding the person. And of course, the court can direct the custodial persons to produce the suspect at any time or the defendant at any time. So,
and if they're unable to get that person, the surety.
Definitely. But again, a lot of things about surety that a lot of people don't know is that sureties, they are there in their civil jurisdiction. A surety will only say that, okay, if he doesn't come, I will bring so amount. For example, the 100 million. So if the surety brings the 100 million, the surety becomes free. But again, there is still injustice against society because the person that sought to be punished or sought to be tried would then have escaped justice.
All right, but what are the implications of this particular case now for the broader legal and political landscape in Nigeria?
For me, I think that it's a good one. I'm very, very happy that the EFCC has gone about it the right way. His presumption of innocence has been intact. There has not been unnecessary media propaganda. So I feel that for the legal landscape, a lot of persons will learn their lessons, including politicians, no matter how close you are to the persons in power, because he said that he's an in-law to the former president, and he appeared to everybody, or everybody was scared that maybe they are therefore above the rule of law. But again, this is him and his own persons trying to account for their stay in particular office. So however high you are, however strong you are, the arms of the law outstretched will always get you. So that I think is a major implication that I think that all politicians should learn from.
And what is the message like? How do you think this could actually influence public perception of the issue of corruption and accountability in our nation?
Fantastic. I think that it's going to impact it greatly positively. It has really impacted not just this one, but a string of cases like this are really, I think, in my opinion, boosting public perception when it comes to fight against corruption, which is also at the forefront of what this administration has been touting that it's going to do. So I feel that the public will therefore be having more positive perception of what this administration is about. And it's also going to be a serious note of warning to any persons or set of persons who may want to violate our economic laws. So I feel that is a very huge step in the right direction.
But Justice, can this kind of case be settled out of court?
Okay, definitely. That's number one, and it can also be settled in court. Yeah, for me, I'm not entirely against plea bargain. And the major reason why I'm not entirely against plea bargain is because we have seen in this country that trials get bungled a lot. See, after this case leaves the public, after it leaves reportage, if the members of the Fourth Estate of the realm are not beaming their cameras onto it or pushing it into our consciousness consistently, what ends up happening is that a lot of water may pass under the bridge. And some of these persons that it appeared that we may have a watertight case against them may get bungled. So because of that, why not plea bargain? Plea bargain is not unique to us as a country. It is one major outlet for justice that people exploit in advanced democracies. I dare say that most, It's even touted that about 95% of cases that go on in America, the UK and all, they are settled by way of plea bargain.
But this can only, take that route if those who are presumed, if the accused is guilty.
Definitely.
But in this case, they pleaded not guilty.
No, they can still come back to change their plea.
All right, let's see how
it pans out.
All right. And finally on the show, the political crisis in Rivers State has continued to deteriorate, and that's in spite of President Tinubu's intervention. This week, Governor Siminalayi Fubara ordered an immediate relocation of the legislative business of the State House of Assembly to Government House in Port Harcourt. The relocation order is contained in the State Official Gazette, the Executive Order of the Rivers State Government 001-2023. Now, the order came about 24 hours after Victor Okojumbo, a lawmaker loyal to the governor, emerged as a new factional speaker of the assembly, and a few hours after a high court in the state barred the pro-Wike speaker and 24 other lawmakers from parading themselves as members of the assembly. The order also came a few days after Governor Fubara declared that Rivers State had no House of Assembly, and a day after the governor visited the legislative quarters where the pro-Wike lawmakers were holding sitting. I still have Joel Kemie, a political analyst, join us via Zoom, and Justice Ojieno. We'll have to begin with the legal aspect of this, so I'll start with you, Justice. What are the legal and constitutional implications of Governor Fubara's decision to relocate the Rivers State House of Assembly to the Government House?
Okay, for me, I think if we check the case, especially the case of Inokojo and Adeleke, one of the things that it decided was that there has to be, the House of Assembly has to be the scene for lawmaking. So for the government to now say that, okay, it's relocating to the Government House, maybe let's agree for the sake of argument that maybe in quotes, as he is alleging that the place or the Government House, the National Assembly is not in a safe place, is not in a safe state for the other persons to sit. For me, I think that it is not that acceptable. It is wrong, and as much as possible, we must also be reminded. I think we've gotten it wrong in our own neck of the woods that there's a reason why Section 4 comes before Section 5 of our Constitution. Chapter 5 comes before Chapter 6. Section 4 is the section that talks about the legislature, both at the state level and at the at the national level, meaning that the lawmaking has to come first. Executing of the law is second. But we have gotten it the other way around. We feel that executive is stronger and bigger than the legislature. If the laws are not made, there is nothing for the executive to execute.
Let's bring in Joel. Joel, how might this impact the ongoing political crisis in Rivers State?
It's so unfortunate that Rivers State has become a theater of what I call sad democratic drama. Since past the last 1 year, it's been one issue or the other. Now, the whole thing has degenerated to the extent that the state government has given an executive order, the governor has given an executive order for the house to move to the Government House. And in the midst of all of this, I just find out, where is the people? Because, where are the people in the midst of all of this? And the whole drama, the democratic political drama in Rivers in the last 1 year, somehow brings about the question of mockery of democracy as being practiced in Rivers. Talking about the movement of the State House of Assembly, made up of just 4 members, to the Government House, for me, I think it violates the principles of the separation of power, because you cannot have the executive and the legislature in the same building. I don't think it really calls for the separation of power that the principle talks about.
All right.
And talking about the people in all of this, I'm trying to refer to the suspension or the court order that says derecognizes the other members of the House. And I think in this case, it is shortchanging the people who they're supposed to represent, because if the laws that are made, because in this case now it's a power of wits, if the laws made by the 4 people, would it be a reflection of the total number of the eligible voters or people from the constituents? And so I don't think it's a good idea to relocate the legislature to the government house, because it totally violates the principles of separation of power.
All right, let's talk about precedents. What precedents exist for such a relocation, of a state house of assembly, and what were the outcomes in those instances?
Okay,
Justice.
Okay, for me, I may not. The outcome, especially in the case of Inokojo and Adeleke, was that all the laws, I think, that were made in the place that was not the House of Assembly were nullified. Were nullified because they were not made at the recognized seat of legislative power. So I think they were nullified. So I feel that to a large extent also, of course, as Mr. Keme raised, was a major issue of quorum. 4 persons out of course, instead of 32, now 31, because 1 person became late. It is eternally wrong, especially in the light of Section 96 of our Constitution, that actually talks about the quorum of any particular state house of assembly. In this situation, it's supposed to be at least 11, because the law says 1/3, the Constitution says 1/3 of the house, of the total number of persons who constitute the House of Assembly. And see, the mathematics doesn't make sense at all. 4, not even 11, and that's quorum to sit. But to make major decisions like, for example, electing the principal officer. So 3 people now decide who the speaker is.
But if you look at what brought them to this point, the fact that some people defected from their political party, when they left, was there a crisis in their party, which is the reason that
you see, fantastic, and I think that's Section 109 or something, 1G. You see that question? We are jumping to the conclusion. That question is before the courts of law. I think it's even now at the Court of Appeal. So the jury is still out as to whether there was dispute that is strong enough or good enough to be able to say, okay, these persons that have left, whether the PDP for the APC and back to the PDP or still in APC, whether they have indeed lost their seat. So the jury is still out on that. Until the jury comes back in and gives its verdict, we are not qualified to say whether they have lost their seat or not. Even the governor isn't.
All right, let's quickly hear from Joel. How might this decision now affect the balance of power between the executive and legislative branches in Rivers State? I know you were referring to that earlier, so just expatiate some more.
It will definitely affect the functions of the State House of Assembly, and it will definitely affect the whatever laws or whatever will come out from the House. And like my brother said there in the studio, the quorum is not there. And for me, given that we practice a democratic system where these people are representative of people, of voters who have elected them to go and represent their interests. So you can imagine in this case now, where you have only 4 persons now making the laws, I don't think it's really speaks volume of, it really speaks well of our democracy. It's simply, from what I see, the activities of even the executive and the legislature, as far as Rivers State is concerned, is simply politics. It's simply politics to outwit one person or to outwit the other. And then we've had a lot of statements coming from the purported godfather, the godson, and all of that. And then when somebody says, oh, I made a mistake for making him governor, I will. So are you saying that it was exclusively your power, yourself that made him governor? What about the voters? So in this case, when you look at the activities of the State of Assembly as recognized now by the incumbent governor, and you look at the executive cohabiting in the same building, that will tell you a lot about what will come out in terms of laws and in terms of approvals or in terms of functions of the State House of Assembly, as enshrined groundum of Nigeria, which is the constitution. So it's just like we're just playing.
All right,
we're
Joel.
just playing. It's very
All
wrong
right,
signal.
you've made your point, and I sincerely appreciate you for joining us on the show. I've been speaking with Joel Kemie, a political analyst, and he joined us via Zoom. And of course, Justice Ojiena, a lawyer, with me in the studio. Thank you so much for making our time to be part of the conversation this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Justice. Well, that's our show for today. Remember, you can follow the conversation on our social media platforms at TVC News NG or on our website at tvcnews.tv. I am Abosede Adeniro Aderemi. Until next week, goodbye.